So welcome to our webinar this morning, how to get most out of 60 minutes or flip your session with open access resources. Today there are two presenters, myself, Margarita Berzanskaya, the e-volunteer coordinator at English Online, and Ivona Gniadek, lead of learner services at English Online. Okay, so I'm passing over to Ivona to start this session, to start this discussion.
Okay, so hello everyone. Welcome to our session on flipped learning with open access resources. And I have a question for you right away. How familiar are you with flipped learning? Can you finish the sentence and give us a number in the chat box? Are you an expert? Do you know a bit? Do you want to learn more? Okay, fantastic. 3 want to learn. Great. Anyone else? Okay, fantastic. All right, so I'd like to start with a quote by Jonathan Bergman, the author of the book Flip Your Classroom. He said that there's no such a thing as the flipped classroom. There's no specific methodology to be replicated. Every teacher who's chosen to flip does so differently. With that in mind, our plan for today is as follows. We'll do an exploration activity. Then we'll talk about the what's and how's of flipped learning. We'll discuss open access resources, and then we'll give you a chance to flip a lesson to apply what you've learned. Sounds good? And if you have any questions, feel free to raise your hand or type it in the chat box. Okay? So because we couldn't flip this session, this drop-in session, we'd like to start it by giving you some time to explore the topic on your own. We have some threes here, and some people want to learn more. So we'd like to give you about 10 minutes to explore flipped learning, to find out what it is and what it's not. Okay? And we've vetted some resources for you. Okay? So here, we've created a page on Blend Space. So you can click on the link on the slide, and it will take you to another page with the Blend Space lessons. And we've put some resources there, a video, some articles to read, and a wall where you can introduce yourself. So go through some of those resources, and as you're going through them, think about what flipping is and what it's not. And that's what we'll be discussing after. Okay, so is that clear? Does everybody, is everybody on the website now, on the Blend Space page? Okay. Yes, that's right. So we leave for 10 minutes, and hopefully you can hear me in the background. Yes, that's right. Okay, so 10 minutes, that will be 10:15. Okay? And when you're back, just say something in the chat box that you're back, or no, I can't sing. Oh, maybe I should mute myself. 10 minutes, okay? To give you some peace and quiet. So we have about 4 to 5 more minutes. I hope everybody's doing great. Any questions? Come back to the room and type a question or raise your hand. Hi, friend. Because I was muted for a bit. We have a another webinar going on in the office, so I wanted to mute the space when I don't talk. Okay, 2 more minutes. Okay, so if you're finishing up your web quest, come back to the room and in the chat box, tell us what you've discovered. That's right. Okay, is everyone ready? So in those 10 minutes, what were you able to find out about flipped learning? If you can give us some suggestions about what flipping is or what it's not. Tanya says it's a great idea and very, very easy for learners to use. Yes, the blend space, right? Yes, it's a lovely tool to organize lessons and or create lessons. Step by step, yes. Very easy to use for a teacher and okay. Margarita will take a note of the request for to learn more about blend space. Great idea, Fran. Okay, so any more suggestions about what flipping is? Is everyone back in the room? I can see Fran and Briar, Tanya. How about Natalia and Anonymous? Are you back in the room? Okay, fantastic. Any thoughts about flipped learning? What did you find out? Okay, that's right. Yeah, we absolutely agree. A great way to engage learners in the classroom. Use of the educational technology, absolutely. Yes, you can. Briar is asking if we can flip a class with blend space, and the answer is yes, because what we've done, we created the lesson and we've given you the link here, right? But you can give the link to your learners and ask them to do the activities before the following class to prepare for that class, right? Okay, excellent. So now I'll pass the microphone to Margarita and she will walk you through those clouds, speech bubbles. Okay, Margarita, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Ivana. Thank you, everyone, for doing this activity and for your ideas about what flipped learning is and what it is not. We've done this activity with you for several reasons. First of all, we wanted to show you one of the ways to review the pre-class knowledge with your learners. As Ivana has already mentioned, we could not flip this webinar because it's a drop-in session. So we decided to scaffold the flipped learning now, and we introduced the pre-webinar part during the webinar to give you proper instructions and to set our expectations. And as you've seen, this model of learning demonstrated the increase of interaction in a flipped session, in a flipped class, in a flipped webinar. So you had a chance to suggest your ideas, to learn from your peers, to communicate, to ask questions, right? And you had a chance to share what you've already known and what you've just learned. Okay, so now let's see what flipped learning is and what it is not to review what you've just learned. Okay, so first of all, videos. In many resources, you can notice that flipped learning is quite often is associated with making videos and showing them to your students, to your learners. Videos are just one of the ways to flip your class, and teachers should not feel pressure to produce videos unless they want to, or if it works for your learners, for example. Yes? So flipped learning is not to replace the teacher. Even if you assign some pre-class work to prepare your students, it doesn't mean that your learners do not need you. It's the interaction and meaningful activities guided by the instructor, the teacher, and which occur during the face-to-face or synchronous online time is the most important. Okay, so, and flipping, if you assign some prep work, it's not a homework. It's work that learners do to prepare for your class, to come to your class ready for new knowledge, ready to ask questions, and consult you as an expert. It doesn't mean, though, that your learner will work in isolation. Depending on the activity that you introduce, and we will discuss possible activities a little bit later, your learner can get your support. He or she can collaborate with the peers, or with the community, or with his friends, family, and so on. Flipped learning doesn't mean that flipped classes have no structure. The pre-class discovery journey is guided and scaffolded by you, by the teacher. So as you've noted, the great example is Blend Space. So you, as a teacher, as an instructor, set a sequence of steps for your learners to complete, and thus they explore this topic on their own, still guided by your notes, by your suggestions. And this is the most exciting part of the flipped model, because the teacher is not a teacher. The teacher is a facilitator. The teacher becomes a guide on the side. And the learner becomes more self-directed. So in English Online context, our ultimate goal is to foster self-directed learning, which means that learning can happen anywhere and anytime, whenever a learner is ready for learning, right? And as long as learning opportunities are not limited by in-class hours only, and learners can access classroom content whenever they have time for it, they can work at their own pace and at their own schedule. So this model helps to increase interaction and personalized contact time between a learner and an instructor. So learner gets this opportunity to ask the question that he or she has, and work on things that he or she does struggle with. Okay, and learners take responsibility for their own learning. Because if they come unprepared for your class, it would be much more struggling for them to complete the follow-up activities. Okay, and if you've noticed, flipped learning always come with the term blended learning. Sometimes these terms overlap. Sometimes these, in other resources, they mean opposite things. We think that flipped classroom is a subset of blended learning. So, but with a little bit different focus. The focus of blended learning is on engaging learner with different types of media tools, and so on, while the focus of flipped classroom is on the type of learning and how it is addressed. So if you have a face-to-face class, for example, you can flip even without electricity. If you teach online, then you will flip your online sessions. If you have a face-to-face class, but you also incorporate technology, it means that you have a blended class. If you flip this class, then you will get a flipped blended class. Okay, I hope it's not too confusing. Okay, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask them, okay? I will try to address them, or Ivana. Okay, so let's move on. Let's recall Bloom's taxonomy. So in a regular class, oh, thanks, Natalia. This diagram shows the time during the class, during your session, right? So if you have a regular session, which is not flipped, I mean, we spend time on explanation, on the knowledge and comprehension stages of Bloom's taxonomy. Thus, we leave ourselves and our learners less time for language application and creation and so on. And when you flip your class, okay, so when you flip your class, okay, comprehension and knowledge stages, they take place even before your session starts. So in class, during your session, you get more time for learning-based activities requiring critical thinking skills. In other words, for application and creation. You will have more time, your learner will have more time to speak, to write, to ask questions, to communicate. So let's discuss the process of flipping. Basically, it contains three stages, three steps. So first, you assign the pre-class materials for your learner to complete before your session starts. Then you review them in class, like, for example, the activity that we had with you after completing the exploration activity. We asked you to reflect on what flipped learning is and what it is not. It was an in-class review, right? And only after that you start with follow-up activities, what I'm doing right now. Okay, so I want to share some tips with you on how to flip, and I hope they will help you to start flipping your sessions, your classes. Okay? First of all, negotiate the flipped project with your learner to set clear expectations. Make sure that your learners are aware of your expectations and for this new format of learning and teaching, and they completely understand the logistics of this model. Okay? Start flipping together to ensure scaffolding and to provide proper instructions, proper training to your learners. We've used this technique in this webinar. So the pre-webinar part, we introduced it to you during the webinar to give you our instructions and to set our expectations. Okay. Also, you can start flipping with small steps. So flip one activity first, see how it's going to work, and only after that you can flip the whole session or your whole program, your whole course. Okay. Do not repeat the material that you've assigned to your learner in class. Repurpose pre-class activities during face-to-face time. Otherwise, your learner will get a message that it's okay not to complete anything. You can use open access resources, or you can create your own resources if you want. A little bit later in the second part of our session today, Ivana will talk more about open access resources. These are resources available online and shared by other people. If you use open access resources, it will save you time and efforts, and you will you do not need to create, you just need to adjust those resources to your own context. Oh yeah, thanks, Ivana. Okay, so let your learners practice their receptive skills, listening and reading before class. Give them a chance to work at their own pace so that they can listen to podcasts, they can read texts as many times as they wish, depending on their CLB level, their learning priorities, their learning strategies, and so on. Ask your learners to complete some real-life language tasks before your session and then reflect on them. This will give you an idea of your learners' prior knowledge, and it will help you to focus on aspects your learner is struggling with. Okay? So become a facilitator. Let your learner be self-directed. Let your learner lead his own learning process. Become the guide on the side to scaffold this learning process. Okay, and open the boundaries of your classes to integrate personal language learning environment. We will also talk about it at the end of our webinar. Okay, okay, so let's have a look at some examples of activities that you can introduce for the pre-class and in-class parts of your flipped sessions. Okay, as a pre-class, pre-session activity, you can ask your learner to work on some project. For example, to write a blog post, to reflect on something that happened in his or her life, and so on. You can also incorporate face-to-face or synchronous peer-to-peer interactions before the session. Your learner can interview a friend or a colleague or a family member, right? Asynchronous discussions also work quite good for the pre-class part. You can use discussion boards. There are lots of them, lots of free discussion boards available online. Your learners can work on vocabulary. For example, you can assign them flashcards or some dictionary work. Your learners can watch a video or listen to a podcast related to a topic you'd like to cover in class. Ask them to read an article, to search something on the internet, to brainstorm challenges and benefits of this or that topic, and so on. So this list can go on and on. Okay, and in class, you will repurpose the knowledge that your learner has gained before the class. The activities that can be introduced in class are role plays. You can introduce quiz or information exchange activity to review the pre-class knowledge to make a transition to your follow-up activities. Flipping a class gives you more time for one-on-one discussions with your learners. If you have several learners in your class, if you work one-on-one, the flipped model gives your learner an opportunity to come to your session prepared with a list of questions and to discuss them with you as with an expert. Okay. Also, your learner can work on some kind of a project so that your learners will create content. And of course, language games and share and tell presentations for your learners to share their experiences and their thoughts about this type of model. Okay. Do you have any questions about the flipped model or the activities or the tips that I've just shared? Feel free to ask them in the chat box. Okay. Okay, and If not, then I'm passing over to Ivona, and she will continue with the second part of our workshop. She'll talk more about open access resources.
Okay, I'm back. Hello. Okay, Fran says, I like pre-class as it gives the learner time to prepare and learn and answer. Yes, right? They have time and space to process the material, the learning. Okay. So let's say you want to show a video about expressing opinions, right? And I think earlier Tanya has posted a video about expressing reactions. And exactly, we don't need to create a video because there's lots of available on the internet, right? So we look for them, we Google them, we curate our resources instead of creating them, which saves time, and we don't recreate the wheel, right? Because there's tons of resources available created by other teachers. So right now we'd like to talk about those open access resources, basically anything and everything that's out there. But for this webinar, we divided them into 3 categories: open educational resources, which are licensed under Creative Commons, websites for ESL, EAL teachers, and also free online tools, such as Blend Space. Okay? And while talking about open access resources, it's important to mention the Creative Commons licenses, because not everything online is free to use. Is everyone familiar with Creative Commons? Just type yes or no. Absolutely. Anyone? Are you familiar? Yes. Anyone else? Creative Commons licenses? Okay, that's great, because I'm not going to go into detail. I just wanted to bring your attention to those licenses when you look for resources, okay? Because in the traditional um, um, in the traditional copyright system, all rights are reserved, right? Whereas Creative Commons licenses tell you specifically what you can do with a resource. For example, some licenses allow you to use and modify materials, and some even sell your final product. Okay? And I have 2 examples for you. And we call them open educational resources. They have a Creative Commons license, because then we know what we can do with them, right? Whether we can modify them, whether we can use them at all, right? So I have 2. Okay, so before I tell you about the examples, Margarita and I did a webinar about Creative Commons for the Realize conference last January. So if you want to learn more about those licenses, copy the link and bookmark the page and watch the recording in your own time. Okay? And we'll share this PowerPoint on our website, so you'll be able to access all those links later as well. I'm just mentioning it. Okay, so my examples. My first example is our summer course, the English Online summer course, which is an open educational resource. All the materials are available on a wiki. Okay, so if you click on a link here, you can go to the wiki and explore it for a bit. Okay, while I'm talking about it. So the summer course, we developed it last year and delivered it in the summer of 2013, and we're going to do it again this summer. It was a huge success, and it was nominated for a British Council Elton Award, which is an international award for English language teachers. We were nominated in the local innovation category. the course was 9 weeks long, and each week had a specific theme. Okay, and the course was flipped because learners had access to the activities before they came to a virtual class to review the material and what happened and what they learned. Okay, so the week was published. They had to do certain tasks, and if you are on those pages, you can see those tasks. So they had a week to complete those tasks, and then the following week. So, for example, in week 2, in the virtual class we reviewed week 1, etc. Okay, and also we didn't go week by week. We always opened to 1 week or 2 weeks ahead, so people could look into the future and start working on those tasks that would be happening in the future. So that's one example. And then the second, any questions about this course? And because it's on a wiki, anyone can visit the site, copy, use, adapt, remix, repurpose, and then just mention English Online as the original author. Okay, and share. You can share the resources as well. Any questions about the course? Any comments? Okay, so I'll move on to the next one. Diversity in Manitoba. Diversity in Manitoba is another course that English Online flipped. This time it's a 4-week course, and the structure is similar. Learners have access to a set of activities, and then they come to a virtual class on Skype to practice what they've learned. Okay, in the original version, learners could do the activities in any order they wanted. Okay, but then recently we decided to flip it to introduce scaffolding, more scaffolding of learning before they come to the class to use the learning. And we have a link to a blend space. Margarita, do you have a link to that blend space page? Just 1 second. Any questions? Complementary. What do you mean by complementary, Fran? Like they complement each other? Free? They are free to the learners of English Online. But the summer course, because it's on a wiki, anybody can use it. So the resources are open to anyone. The diversity in Manitoba is structured differently. So we use our platform for some of the activities, and it's on Skype. So yeah, we'll share the link to the blend space lessons later on. Okay, we have it. Thanks, Margarita. You're a superstar. Okay, so you can click on the link to see how the material is organized. Okay. So just to tell you a little bit more about the course, the Diversity in Manitoba course is focused on participating in discussions. Okay, so we we found, or we have access to 4 videos that the province of Manitoba created about diversity in Manitoba, and we every week we discuss one video. And in week 1 we practice expressing opinions, in week 2 agreeing, in week 3 disagreeing, and then interrupting, etc. And so if you look at the blend space, this is what happens, right? For the pre-session, right? Pre-class activities, learners do a vocabulary test, then they watch a video, then they go through a handout with expressions, okay? Then they watch a video that we found on the internet about expressing opinions. Then they go to an asynchronous discussion board to practice expressing opinions, right? So the asynchronous forums are great because they give time and space to think about what one wants to say, right? So that learners have more time to think about what they want to say. And finally, they come to a class where they speak. This is a Skype class, so there's no writing, it's just speaking. And after the class, they reflect in their journals about what they learned in that week. Okay, any comments? We're great on time, Margarita. Yes, we will have a fun activity after this. So any comments? Any questions? So now I'm thinking about a face-to-face class when I have a group of people in front of me, I ask a question and nobody says anything. Right? We always want some response. So I encourage you to use the chat box to have a conversation with us. Don't be shy. I can't even see you. You can see me. Okay. So if there's no questions about the courses, thanks, Tanya. We can move on to a more practical part of this webinar. And we have oh, no, sorry. Before we get there, Margarita has a very important section to do. I'm sorry. Okay, so now over to Margarita. She will talk about the websites and tools, and then we'll do the practical part if we have time. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Ivana. I will try to be very brief. Okay, so I'm grabbing my presentation tools. Can we assume this will work with beginners? So we are introducing you a model of the flipped learning, and everything will depend on your context, on your learner's language level. You can try, if you have a beginner learner, you can try with a small step. For example, ask your learner to watch a video appropriate to his or her CLB level, right? And then discuss this video in class. Or start doing this in class, and only after that ask your learner to do something on his or her own. Okay, so it's all about the materials, the resources that you would find. Yes, right, Yvonne, thank you. Okay, I still don't have my presenters right somehow. Oh, okay. So among open access resources, we also have websites and free online tools. There are so many resources available online. There are so many websites created specifically for language learners and language teachers, and they contain numerous activities covering almost all aspects of language learning, such as listening, speaking, reading, writing, grammar, pronunciation, and so on. For example, English learning sections of BBC or British Council websites, they focus on different skills, right? While other websites such as English Central, for instance, they polish a particular skill. For example, English Central will help your learners improve their listening skills and work on their pronunciation. Or Business Letter Punch. This website focuses on formal letter writing skills. We had a webinar last fall on popular language learning websites. You can see the link on this slide. You can watch this webinar as a post-session activity and learn more about different online resources available out there. We've also prepared a collection of websites for you. All these slides and the handouts will be available in the Teaching with Technology blog on our website. This is the link for you. And we also included here websites created by language teachers and for language teachers, where they share their lesson plans, their activities, the language learning games, and so on. Okay, so feel free to explore the links and curate some resources for your own classes. Okay, and we also mentioned online tools as an open access resource, as open access resources. There are tons of online tools available on the web, and they are free. I mean, lots of them are free. Not all of them, unfortunately. Oh, thank you. Okay, and in our pre-webinar part, in our exploration activity, we used just a tiny part of all those tools, such as Blandspace, YouTube, Google Form. You had an opportunity to introduce yourself on a Padlet wall, and so on. Just to give you an example what you can do and how you can use those tools for your flipped classes. Okay. We had a question about the Blandspace. As you've seen, Blandspace helps you collect, helps you curate and organize resources in one place and share one link with your learner for him or her to complete all those steps at his or her own space. This tool is really user-friendly. It has drag-and-drop design, so you can easily add, insert, delete resources from the internet and from your own computer. Okay. We also have a collection of tools that we've curated for you. Most of them were not designed for language learning, but still you can use them to introduce some ESL activities. So in this handout, you will see the tool, a brief description, the link, and a list of suggested ideas for flipping EAL, ESL classes. Okay, this handout will also be published on our website in the Teaching with Technology blog. And you can see that Blandspace is not the only tool to flip your classes. You can flip your classes with TED. This is a tool to create and customize, to create customized lessons around videos that you can find online. You can use Quizlet to create vocabulary activities, and you can also use any social network, for example, Facebook or Edmodo, as a learning management system for your classes, to assign materials, to have asynchronous discussions, and so on. Okay? Well, and now we still have some time for an exciting activity for you. Okay? Now it's your turn to flip the lesson. So we've picked a CBC Manitoba EL lesson, Can Immigrating to Canada Make You Sick? This topic is relevant to EL, ESL instructors in Canada. You can see two links. This is the link to the page where you can find the podcast and the lesson plan. And the second link is lesson plan itself. So we would like you to open open the lesson plan and just have a brief look and share with us how you can flip this session. How would you flip this lesson plan? Okay, we're a little bit short of time, so let's have 3 minutes for this. Okay, just have a look and tell us the first idea that will come to your mind. Okay, wonderful. So let us know when you're back in 3 minutes. Yes, 3 minutes, one idea. You do not have to flip to have an idea on how to flip the whole lesson. You can flip one activity.
Yes, so what comes to mind? What would you flip? Remember, Margarita talked about receptive skills, maybe a bit of listening, or I don't want to give away too much. Any ideas? Reading before the class, excellent. Anything else? Yeah, read and respond to the content, right? So not just read, but also do something about it, right? Maybe answer a question or maybe write something about that content. Podcast before the class, excellent. Anything else? Yeah, so because the podcast is available online, right, on the CBC website, learners can listen to it as many times as they want. So we can just give them a link to that and ask them to listen and prepare for the class discussion. Record your own story. That's right. Any other ideas? Also vocabulary, right? The lesson starts with a list of vocabulary, so we can just give them the page and look the words in a dictionary, right? We can give them a list of words. And that's actually interesting because yesterday I went to a school in Winnipeg, and I was talking to learners about English Online and about different learning options. And one of them was actually registered with English Online. So she came up to me after the session and she said, Ivona, can we have a list of vocabulary that will be discussed in the webinar before the webinar? And I thought, she's perfect. She's asking to flip her class. She wanted to have the vocabulary list before the session so she could prepare for the virtual class, be better prepared. It was great. I really liked to hear that. Any questions? Any comments? Okay? So we've discussed flipping and open access resources, and where it all comes together for us is in our learners' personal language learning environment. So basically everything in their life, right? The life is the classroom. And flipping and open access resource is a way of tapping into that world of authentic language materials online and in learners' daily life. One of our colleagues from British Columbia, Nathan Hall, said that for learners it is an unfettered access to content to consume and share. I really liked what he said about the personal language learning environment. And flipping is a way of inviting learners to bring their learning into the classroom, not just expect it to happen in the four walls of the classroom. And our mission at English Online is to foster learners' autonomy, and we feel that flipping allows for that. And that's why we encourage you to flip your classes and with anything and everything that's out there. Okay? So that's it from me, and looking forward to your questions or comments. We wish we had more time for that last session, or for the last activity, hands-on activity, yeah. Okay, so I'll pass on to Margarita.
Okay, thank you, Ivana. Before we say bye-bye to you and before we wish you to have a wonderful weekend, I want to pay your attention to our volunteer e-tutor program. I can see our e-tutors here at the webinar, and if you are not a part of our awesome national team of volunteers, then you can read more information about how to become an online instructor, and you can contact me and I will help you explore this program. Okay, you can just email or Skype me. You can see my information here. If you have any questions about the flipped classroom or about open access resources, feel free to contact me or Ivona, and we will be very happy to answer your questions. Okay? And thank you everyone for joining us this morning, this Saturday morning. Have a great weekend, and we will see you online